Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Rear Wing Report. Today we are going to be looking at the midfield and bottom of the order and giving our mid-season reviews. Hopefully things go better for us than they did for Franco Colapinto during testing earlier this week. And here to break it all down, give us his insight, his wisdom, his worldly knowledge, the one, the only, the angry, the unsettled, in the dog dad, McHugh.
That was a lot of accolades, and angry might be one of them. And hey, you never know what kind of mood you're gonna catch me in, right?
Mm.
I can't always
You,
be the pure, hearted, kind soul that I present myself to be.
well, I'm telling you, I added angry in off the top of my head because I was looking at you and you looked like, I don't really want to say it.
Annoyed,
No,
frustrated.
I was going for a certain person. Um, you
I
know,
look
I,
like Grumpa Monster. Yeah, I
I
know.
was going to say, no, Luigi Mangione.
Oh, eh,
You had that very angry, like, I'm going to bring down the healthcare system by assassinating a CEO look to you. I don't think you're going to go out and commit murder.
no,
You just looked unsettled.
no. But I wouldn't run it like honestly. If there's one person I think that is capable of doing that in F1, I think that is Flavio Briatore. So
No, yeah, he'll kill anybody.
yeah.
So Ryan, today we're going to look at the bottom five
hmm
teams in the constructor standings. We're going to go quick. It's going to be a short episode. Obviously, we are just getting back to work. We had intended to kind of pre-tape all of these, but life got in the way, and preparations for work, obviously. So we're doing it at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
But
no better
and we're
time.
and we're here for the people.
Yep.
So let's get right into it. We're going to go from 10 up to 1 eventually, but today we are going to go 10 through 6, and we're going to start off with everybody's favorite Alpine. Now, I want to preface this first one with saying that when I was laying out the schedule, I had thought about making Alpine its own episode, but I thought maybe people didn't really want to hear about Alpine. I don't really want to talk about Alpine that much, so take it away. What are your thoughts on Alpine halfway through the year?
I'll give you 3 words. 4 words.
Okay.
No, 5 words. Gonna be worse than Cadillac. That's that's
Oh,
that's what I think. Nothing is suggesting to me that the Alpine is actually a sound team at the moment. It seems like it
sure.
is just turmoil, chaos. It just seems like they do not have, the track underneath them at times. And it's just like nothing is really going their way, right? They started the year out with Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan. And they were hoping that Jack Doohan would maybe, be able to score him a couple points. He scored 0, and then, hey, we're going to throw in Franco Colapinto, and
Hmm.
he has scored 0, right? They have 20 points. 20 points, right? They are 15 points behind the next team, being Haas, so they're far off. We'll talk about Haas in a little bit here, but it just seems like nothing can go their way, right? Like, hey, we have these solutions, and they're just not working, right? Like, ever since Colapinto's gone into the car, and he has raced more than Jack Doohan now at this point. Right, he's had a crash at Imola, he had a DNS in Silverstone, right, and like just the 0 points are just brutal for the team, right? It's their worst season as a works team, and I just am very curious as to how they think things are going to change, right? Because even like thinking about the past like 2 years or even further than that, right? Like it has been rather rough, right? Like last year in 2024, they ended up with 65 points total, right? We're halfway through the season. They haven't even made half of what they scored last year, right? They ended up finishing P6, with 65 points ahead of the Haas, right? Ahead of the Racing Bulls, ahead of the Williams, ahead of the Kick Sauber Ferrari, whatever the heck you want to call them, right? And they were 29 points behind Aston Martin, right? And nothing is showing that they're getting better. They're getting progressively worse when it seems like other teams are starting to grow a little bit more and kind of expand and like think about their futures, right? To me, with Alpine, there is no future at the moment. Like it just there's nothing that suggests like, hey, things are gonna be like looking good heading into 2026. So yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's hard when there's teams that are just going to consistently dominate that top 10, but we've barely seen, Pierre Gasly, who I think is probably he's one of the best drivers on the grid, can only manage to score 20 points so far just by his lonesome, so it's rough.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I will say, in their defense, last year, 35 out of their excuse me, total 65 points were scored in Brazil. So,
Oh wow.
maybe we just got to wait till Brazil
I didn't
and
even think
see how
about
they
that.
do there. So, they're tracking above that right now because then they scored 10 in Qatar and 6 in um, Abu Dhabi. So, Flavio would tell you that they're ahead of schedule right now. But I think for me, my 3-word review comes down to who, and who. So it's 3 who's. Um, Number one, who wants to work there? And I think that's a big problem. You have Cadillac coming in, buying up a bunch of talent and attracting a bunch of people. You have Williams and Aston Martin who have made long-term plans for this next regulation cycle, and they're hiring people and bringing in some of these different minds, et cetera. And especially Aston Martin saying like, "Hey, you can work with Adrian Newey, right? McLaren's going to be attractive. Hey, you can work for a championship winning team, etc." So who wants to work there? Who's the second driver, right, for next year? I think it's Colapinto for the rest of this year. There's rumors about Botas, but I don't think that's happening. Um, Neither Colapinto nor Doohan have shown any sort of real promise
Hmm.
in terms of being able to match Pierre. And I think the only way that Colapinto's there next year is like if he somehow, essentially in every race, like finishes ahead of Pierre,
Yeah.
on merit, not on, Pierre's engine died, etc. So I think that's a problem. And then my third who is who wants to buy this team? Because it seems like they're just being stripped down for parts and then just
Hmm.
we're gonna make this as, kind of like an open concept type thing where it's just here's what we have and you can do whatever you want with it. So I think those are like the 3 real concerns that they need to address. And I don't see them addressing. Like you said, there's no future. So I see no future in talking about Alpine. Do you have any
Yeah.
final things you want to add in?
What if you could give him a grade? What would you give him?
I created a new grade, F minus frowny face, fire emoji. Like they truly they break the grading scale
Yeah.
because at every point, whenever they have the opportunity to do something, they inevitably make the wrong choice, right? At least in the short term, like it just makes no sense to me, and this whole like the way they handled the driver switch over and everything else doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Colapinto also brought in like some big sponsor out of Argentina and they were like, yeah, he's the driver for next year, at least for the first 6 races. And then we're right back where we were.
Right. Yeah, you're back to square one at that point then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the only way that Colapinto retains a seat is like, hey, look how much sponsor money I'm bringing in. That's like to me the only reality that might do that. And speaking of keeping seats,
Mm.
what do you think about the Haas boys?
Well, I mean, Haas is sitting in ninth place. They have a total of 35 points. Um, it's very strange. They seem to be inconsistent, right? Like they kind of go through these runs of, hey, we scored points at 2 or 3 races in a row. Now we missed out on points for 2 or 3 races. Ali Behrman, broke or set everybody's favorite record of, consistent finishing position outside
Hmm.
of the podium. Um, uh,
Consistently average is how I would put it.
yeah, I mean, like, obviously well above Kimi Antonelli. No, I would. They're weird. Like they seem to work well together as a group. They're just not really getting those results. But
Hmm.
it does seem like when the car kind of is suited to the track, they're able to extract some points from it. Um, I mean, they're thereabouts all the way up to Aston Martin, right? I mean, they 52 to 35. That's not crazy.
Yeah,
So, um, you know, a week ago they were separated by 1 point,
yeah.
or 2 weeks ago, whatever it is now. So, I think that they don't get as much grace because I don't think they've talked about their 2026 plan and how they're pivoting to that.
Hmm.
So maybe people are more worried and looking at it like, oh, do they have a plan? Are they all in on this year? And so I think that maybe it's more of just like a bad press or PR thing for them in that sense, where Williams and Aston Martin have been very, um, upfront about, we're focusing on next year. We don't care about this year. So for me, it's like a wait and see. Like that's my 3-word review for them: wait and see.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't really have a whole lot of strong feelings about them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like after the first like 3 races, I was like, okay, the Haas actually might be like pretty consistent this year. And they've been like consistently P11, and like we've had a couple of good results so far. Like, Akon was able to get a P10 in Austria. Like that's like the best like result we've had in the past few weeks. And
Hmm.
Ali Behrman scored 8 points, like
It's pretty good.
it's yeah, I mean, if you're trying to beat Yuki Tsunoda, who's racing for the Red Bull,
Sure. But I mean,
yeah,
like, so if you think about it though, like they're kind of where we expected them to be. Maybe they're down a position. That's why I'm kind of just like, like, okay, they're in ninth place, but they're right there.
yeah.
So that's why I don't know. Like, do you feel like it's been a failure of a season?
No, I don't think it's been a failure of a season. It's just kind of like, hey, where are we at?
Mhm.
Some transparency about that would be nice. Like, and like you can't understate it. Like Esteban Ocon's had a pretty good season. He scored 27 points by himself, and like the car just lacks pace. Like he is keeping them up with the Racing Bulls, who actually score points pretty consistently, whether it's a point a weekend or whatever it may be. Like they're 10 points shy of the Racing Bulls. So yeah, I just the lack of point scoring is what gets me. And Behrman's consists inconsistent consistency, like, hey,
Yep.
can we get to that one more position? Like, but they're just being outshined, like that's kind of the moral of the story is like these other teams that are commonly at the bottom of the grid are starting to actually show some growth, right? Like, being your Sauber and your Aston Martin, like they're actually like growing a little bit. Your Williams, right? It doesn't seem like they're really going anywhere. It's kind of just like been stagnant all season long. And I don't know if I had high expectations after, like Ali Behrman's stint last year with like Ferrari, like if things were gonna go well, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, their pace is lacking, and they're just kind of, keeping their head above the water, essentially, is kind of how I would describe that. Like, like their nose is out of the water, but they're pretty close to being at that point where, hey, we might really struggle. Um, and I don't think anything's really going to change too much within the team heading into like next year. But are you optimistic at all about them scoring any points in the next, half a season?
I mean, sure that not optimistic that they'll score more and like kind of outpace it, but I think optimism that they'll kind of continue what they've been doing. Um, Although traditionally, if you look at Haas, most of the time they score their points in the first like 6 to 8 races. Um, and that's where they get like the majority of their points. So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they kind of drop off and score 1 or 2 points here and there. Um, but I think it really depends on what that direction is. Like you said, are they focused on next year? Are they focused on this year? If
Mhm.
they're focused on this year, I think they'll pick up a bunch of points as a lot of other teams start to shift that focus to next year. But if you had to give them a grade, what do you give them?
A D.
A
I
D.
don't think I would go down to an F or anything like that, but yeah, I would say yeah, D. Again, D's get degrees. You're passing, but you're just barely making it.
Yeah. I went with like a C minus D plus. I couldn't really decide. I'm kind like I said, I'm very ambivalent towards it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I like Haas, but they have done nothing to interest me this year. Um, so I'm just like, okay, okay. But I know you have some strong feelings about our next team. In eighth place, with a total of 45 points, is the Racing Bulls. What's your 3 to 7 word review for them?
3 to 7 words. Okay, you're giving me a little bit of room.
I mean, I can go first with mine if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear yours first.
Okay. Mine is what's the point? And the reason why I say that is I want them to identify, and I think this is key for them. What is the point of this team? And I
Yeah.
think that's a big decision facing them next year. Is the team to develop drivers and kind of like be the Williams to Mercedes, where this is the proving ground for these guys and we're supporting them and then we're moving them up? Or is it you are essentially the like not even the feeder program because that's too kind, but like this expedited pipeline where we're just going to start throwing people in for Max Verstappen.
Hmm.
Um, like they were talking about bringing Hajar up, but if we're really saying that it's a driver development program, okay, so that tells me Isaac Hajar's there next year. Yuki Tsunoda can't come back, and Liam Lawson might not be able to come back. Right? You have drivers in F2 who need to move up and be given opportunities. You need to make this Red Bull Driver Academy work. What's the point, right? Or are you going to go all in with development of people that you believe are known quantities? I'm keeping Lawson, I'm keeping Hajar. We'll figure out Red Bull, and then we're really diving in on your development. So I think that for me is what I'm interested in. What are they going to do? What is that focus going to be?
Yeah, that's kind of if I could think of where are we going, right? Like essentially what you said, like what is the point of this team? What is our role? Like are we ever going to try to, be a P4, P5 team or are we just going to consistently, be down in our P6s, P7s? It's interesting you brought up like Lawson versus, Isaac Hadjar. Like there's 2 points separating them right now. So like I have a hard time saying like, oh, Liam Lawson's out, but I agree with you. Like, yeah, you do have some like pretty notable drivers in F2 right now that absolutely should probably be given a choice. But like also if you were those F2 drivers right now, do you really want to race for the Racing Bulls? Like, is that where you want to go? Like, yeah, I obviously you want a chance in F1. That's what every racing driver, wants from a very young age is, hey, I want to be at the pinnacle of the sport. I want to do this. But if it were me and I looked at the role of the Racing Bulls essentially just being a feeder team of, hey, maybe you can compare to probably one of the greatest drivers ever, let's see how you do and just kind of throw you in that fire over and over again. Maybe they get lucky once, and maybe that's all it takes. But essentially, like, if we're going to kind of just feeder this and never actually get the resources we need to be a top team, what's the point? Where are we going? How can we kind of separate ourselves from them, though we work for the same exact company, right? So that's like the challenging thing for me. But yeah, I think we've seen like some really good things from like Isaac Hadjar. He's really great in qualifying, especially, and like even during the races, they're in the P8s, they're in the P7s, they're fighting people, and they're racing. So I've had a good time at least watching some of their fights because they're not consistently, the back markers on the grid, right?
Yeah,
Even though it might seem like it, they're not. So
they've scored points in 9 out of the 14
yeah,
Grand Prix this year. I mean, it's not bad.
yeah,
And in um, Monaco, they tied for third most points.
yeah,
So, I mean, not a bad showing by them. And one of those races where they scored no points was Australia, where Isaac Hadjar didn't even start the race.
yeah.
Like, so, not terrible. What's your grade?
C minus.
Okay. Okay. I was actually going to go C plus.
Okay.
Um, I think that they've overall kind of maybe exceeded expectations. And I did put in there kind of the idea of like Laurent Mackey's leaving, driver shuffles that aren't really their idea. So I think with what they've had, and they've kind of done a really good job of rebuilding Liam Lawson,
Yeah.
and building him back up. So I think that they're on the right path with him at least.
Yeah,
Um,
controlled chaos almost. Like he could
yeah.
have totally crashed and burned after
Oh yeah.
his extremely short stint, with Red Bull. And looking back on it now, just because we have the time, do you think it was the right move to put Yuki up in Red Bull and switch him with Lawson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You think
Because
Yuki's handled it better than Liam would have?
it's not even that. I just think it's, again, if the goal of the team is to develop drivers, then you need to see if those drivers develop, give them the
Yeah.
opportunity, which is why I was so against them putting Liam in there in the first place. I wanted to call them, I would describe them as a traveling junkyard for Red Bull, where they're just like taking parts. They're like, yeah, we'll use this, we'll use that, and just kind of, using them for scrap. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, a team that was scrap, but now is quite scrappy
Mm-hmm.
is Kick Sauber. They are
Yeah.
sitting in seventh place with a total of 51 points. What is your review for Kick Sauber?
I'm gonna go one word: impressed. I'm extremely impressed, right? Especially like the past 4 or 5 races. Now I've been really impressed, especially with like, obviously, you had Nico Hulkenberg's amazing drive in Silverstone, right? Like we've been given some really great moments in such a boring season so far. Like we're looking at pure dominance
Yeah.
from the McLaren, right? They have over double the points of the next team. And Kick Sauber's a point behind Aston Martin, right? And they are 19 points away from Williams, who we were extremely high on at the beginning of the season. Like obviously things have faded off towards the back end with them a little bit, but
Sure.
to me, it's well within the cards for them to finish P5 in the constructor standings. Like it could happen. Like we've seen some really great results over the past few weeks, and we've really kind of seen the emergence of Gabriel Bortoleto, where we're seeing like this consistency. P8 in Austria, P6 in Hungary, right? Nico Hulkenberg has 37 points total. He was able to get a podium, and it's just like they have had these moments where it's like, hey, this is a competitive team, and they're not just competitive with other teams, they're also competitive within themselves, right? Like successful teams always have competition within themselves. Look at McLaren now, look at Lewis and
Nico
Nico
Rosberg.
Rosberg. Like competitive teams always start with like competitive drivers who are going at bat against one another. And like Bortoleto's had one heck of a rookie season. Like we obviously did our rookie reviews and everything like that, but he's out qualified somebody that has had over 230 races in Formula One. It is not the most competitive car, but they're maximizing opportunities. They're making good decisions in terms of their strategies, and we're kind of starting to see a little bit of like their pedigree of like who their drivers are and what they're able to accomplish, right? Like Borletto's qualifying pace and like Hulkenberg's experience is giving them points, right? Despite not having the best car on the grid, right? Like if we looked back at week 2 or week 4, maybe if we gave them a little bit more time, I'm pretty sure I called the Sauber like a dumpster fire on wheels, because it was just terrible because it had no pace. There was no way that they were going to be able to score points. But we're starting to see like this like performance just from the team, working with each other, but also fighting with each other as well, where they're optimizing the best results.
That's fair. So what's your grade?
B plus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I like it. My review was second driver better than Kimi Antonelli. No, my review is just fun and neon.
Hmm.
I like the car. I like the design behind it, and I think that as they have kind of gone throughout the season, they have gotten better. I think it's Jonathan Wheatley has taken over there. They scored 6 points in Australia, and then they think they went like 7 races in a row with not scoring points, and then they kind of hit this developmental kick around Spain, and they've scored in every race since then. So I think it's great for them. I was going to give them a B plus. Just being really positive, looking forward in the future,
Yeah.
and I think it's great. Um, we got time. We got one more team.
Hmm.
Pretty quick episode here today, but we have one team left, and it's that great, wonderful, strangely colored green team, Aston Martin,
Yeah.
sitting in sixth place with 52 points, one ahead of Kick. So, what do you got? What's your review?
Um, I have a hard time with this one, but I want to say underwhelming. Like I had higher hopes for Aston Martin probably at the beginning of the season, where it's just like we're seeing a lack of pace in the car. We're seeing Alonso do what Alonso does. We're seeing Lance Stroll put in good results, and it just seems like they're just not moving very much. And I think Adrian Newey working for Aston Martin, I thought, this car might be a rocket ship. It might, like, obviously it's not going to be fighting for number one in the constructors, but I thought maybe they'd be up there past Williams at this point, just given, their roster, given the finances that they have, that they'd be able to do that. Like Lance Stroll is probably the best driver on the grid, right?
That's why I made that face. I was like, wow, okay.
But yeah, like Lance Stroll, we gave him such a hard time at the beginning of the season, and like he was quietly scoring points on us, which was really interesting to see. But it just, you have Fernando Alonso. Yes, he's older, but uh, if you're fighting in that midfield, you should probably be a little bit stronger given, the resources that this team has. So, if I could give them my grade, I'd give them a C, just because they haven't met my expectations. And it, you know, in terms of like qualifying, Alonso is backpacking Lance Stroll. He outperforms him in qualifying every single time. I think it's 13-1 at this point. It might be 14-0. I don't think so.
In
Um,
qualifying,
yeah, in qualifying.
he Lance Stroll has not out qualified uh, Alonso since Silverstone of last year, I believe
Okay,
it
so
is.
it is 14-0 then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 24-0 in the last 24
Yeah.
races.
Yeah. So like not great, Bob, right? Um, seventh in Austria. Lance Stroll scoring minimal points now.
Hmm.
Just not much going on there.
Yeah, that's fair. My 3-word review would be waiting on Newey.
Hmm.
And I think everything for them is driven towards next year, much like Williams, who we'll talk about in our midweek episode. But I just think it's all about that. And I think that, if we're to believe them, he hasn't worked on this car at all. And he's only focused on 2026. So I think that is for them, it gives them hope. From the outside, I don't know if I necessarily believe that all the way. I think maybe he's at least looked at it and been like, hey, maybe change this. But I think that the best you can give them is like a C. It's
Yeah.
just I don't think they're performing very well, but they're not also stinking it up. They're not Alpine,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I mean, they've been somewhat inconsistent, and they still are sitting in sixth. Like, they're in a decent spot. I think they've, have a chance they could be in fifth by the end of the year. They're not getting fourth, but um, we are going to wrap this episode up. Ryan, where can people follow us?
At Rear Wing Report, pretty much on all social media, Instagram. We've been doing some polls recently on our stories. Responses have been really great. People love to stump me with their trivia questions when we get back to our race weekends. So keep it up there. But yeah, make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. Let's go to the moon.